Well, in the halfway point of the season, we have finally been introduced to our villain, and Jesse becomes more aware of his powers than ever. Hey guys, Ken Remember Preacher, Season 1, Episode 5, South will Rise Again, and what an episode this was. I mean, for me, this was my favorite episode of Preacher so far. I really loved this episode. I thought there were some really big highlights here, and there really is a lot to talk about in this episode because a lot happened here. Finally, characters are meeting up. Finally, storylines that have felt separate are coming together, and I really love them. Like I said, we are at the halfway point of the season, and a lot of things are starting to happen. And a lot of people have said, what has been the point of a lot of things we've seen? I think this episode is really starting to answer that question, especially shown in the first flashback, which is probably the first best flashback we've ever had. I love the way this was done. And, Preacher, something about it, it feels like a Western show, but it's not a Western show, and that's mainly because, the flashbacks, we do go into the Old West, and this very much shows that, basically. We get introduced to this character, the Saint of Killers. Now, I don't know if they specifically said it, but it is the Saint of Killers that we got introduced to. Graham McTavish, we see him in the opening credits, we have yet to see him in the show. This is the first time we've seen him, and we see the 19th century traveler rides into Ratwater. He drops a piece of paper in front of a shop owner, and the rider wants it ready that night, but first in the morning, the best the owner can do, and the writer visits a particularly rowdy saloon named Cooley's, and he buys himself a room. He sits and drinks and overhears the town preacher telling a joke about Noah's Ark. He sees some men raping a woman in front of her son, and really just doing a lot of unholy things. And the preacher recognizes the writer from somewhere he can't place, but he's pulled away by a woman, and basically, we don't know who this is, but, we don't really know what's going on here, but it's just really intriguing. You can tell that he really is not happy with what he's hearing, and in the morning, the rider picks up the medicine he ordered, begins his return journey, and a caravan passes him in the other direction. The boy waves at him, Brently, I don't know how you, exuberantly, that's how you say that, sorry, I couldn't say that word. And during his journey, the rider remembers the woman being raped, rides back to Ratwater. The preacher approaches him, but the rider knocks him down with a single blow, just knocks him down completely, and he walks in on the family selling scalps and is jumped by a group of men. And now we know why I think we saw that flashback in episode 2. Because the family that was being scalped is clearly the man that was doing this. That's who is scalping this family. And he's jumped by a group of men. The rider only reached out to protect the bottle of medicine. Later, the rider weakly limps back to his horse. The preacher follows him out. He remembers the rider from the Battle of Gettysburg and says the rider loved killing more than anyone else he'd ever seen. The preacher shoots the rider's horse dead. And when the traveler finally returns to his home on foot, his family is already dead. They're being picked off by birds. He drops the medicine, pulls his guns out of the closet, and perfect way to start the episode. Such a badass opening. I love the way that was done, and this guy clearly, we don't really know who he is exactly, but I'm pretty sure this was the Saint of Killers. I'm pretty sure who we met here was the Saint of Killers. It just, I feel like that's who it was. We got this flashback here, and it's a pretty big flashback. It's revealing a lot. This guy's family was horribly murdered and everything, and I don't know if this was the Saint of Killers or if the man that's doing it is the Saint of Killers. I don't really know, but I do know that this is definitely connected to that. There'd be no other reason really for us to see that unless it was the Saint of Killers. But it does seem like in this, he's just being called the Cowboy. Like, we don't have an actual name for him yet. And I think he is going to be the Saint of Killers, though, because he is going to be the main villain of the show. But I love the way this was done. Just seeing, that he pretty much was, a preacher. He was very much like Jesse, where he was a preacher. And how he really was not, the town was very unholy. And people weren't going to church and things like that. It really just showed that Jesse's situation is not at all unique. This has happened many times before, and you can definitely tell why this is going on. The question is, though, how is he connected to Jesse? Why exactly? How is this going to connect? Is he still alive in the present? I'm thinking he is, because I know, at least from what I've read, he's a preacher that's there he's set out to kill Jesse, and we don't know why he's there to kill Jesse. Maybe he had power and it went wrong, because we don't know the full extent of this flashback. What I'm thinking happened is that this is a guy that had so much power, everything just went to shit for him, that he, didn't understand the full extent of his power, but then when he did embrace his power, his family was murdered, and his life went to shit, and I feel like he's there to kill Jesse because Jesse has that power, and he doesn't want Jesse being in the same situation. So that's going to be interesting. It's a very good setup. I love the way that was done. Perfect opening scene, and that perfectly gets us into how great this episode really is. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be like, well, that was just a random opening scene, but yeah, we are going to see that again. It's the only thing we see of it in this particular episode, but I'm sure we are going to see it again. But most of this episode actually focused much on Eugene, which honestly, I'm happy about, because so far, Eugene, he's been on the show, we've heard things about him, but so far he's only been there for people to make fun of him and for people to ridicule him, and this episode really shows how great of a character he can really be. And really, I think Eugene, after this episode, I honestly feel the worst for. I really think that he's going through the worst thing in his life, and we see Root investigates some noise coming from his tool shed. He sees some tools rattling in a creepy statue, and we don't know what this is or who's causing this, but back inside, he sends Eugene to bed. Eugene calls father upstairs, and Eugene's room, as he has been spray painted with a message that reads, "Finish the job," and an arrow pointing to a shotgun that intruders left behind. Now, what this is, we don't know, but clearly someone's been spray painting his room. Someone said, "Finish the job," and he's thinking, I think Eugene thinks it might be from God, because again, he thinks that God is against him for trying to kill himself. We know that Eugene failed in killing himself. He doesn't really know why he's still here, and again, this is just showing the amount of shit that Eugene, people have on Eugene. I mean, really, he's just been shit on. Everyone laughs at him as a joke. Everyone thinks it's ridiculous that he's still alive, and, I just feel so bad for him, really. I can't help but feel terrible for this guy, and, no one should have to go through what Eugene is really going through. So, Emily and Jesse meet. They discuss what happened with Odin at the last service, and Jesse tells Emily about the bet that got Odin to church, and a group of kids who are enthusiastic about Jesse's service invite him to sit with them and pick his favorite gospel, and Emily says this doesn't feel like Jesse, but Jesse says it's not, it's God. So basically, he is embracing the fact that he might actually be God, and he might have these powers, and that, this isn't at all what Jesse is. Jesse, we remember, was a struggling preacher, but with these powers, he's becoming a lot more powerful, and a lot better of a preacher, and she doesn't really understand it, and I like that she doesn't understand, because honestly, I don't think she's supposed to understand. I don't think that I don't think it matters that she doesn't understand. I think it perfectly, that's just who Jesse is now. He now has these powers, he's embracing it, and I love seeing that. So really good stuff there. I like the way that Jesse, like I said, is starting to become aware of his powers. I like the way that that's all going. But some of the best stuff in this episode definitely was between Tulip and Cassidy. I'm very happy that these two did not meet up till last week's episode, because what they're doing with them now is just awesome. I love it. In a very unexpected direction, because I was thinking these two would clash, but that's not what's happening at all. We see Tulip finds Cassidy sleeping off his trauma, asks him several questions about being a vampire, and she tells Cassidy that he can leave. She's done with him, he's healed and everything, but he asks Tulip about where to find some drugs, but she's not all helpful, and he asks for a hardware store and that she can help him with, and Cassidy tries to forward his relationship with Tulip, but she says that she has a boyfriend who's at work. She still plans on going with him to get revenge on Carlos, and Cassie suggests that if this boyfriend won't go get revenge with her, then maybe he isn't the man that she thought he was, and that really he's no good for her, that he's not really going to do her any favors. So really, this isn't going to do her anything, and I like the way that he's trying to sway her over. It's honestly kind of cute. It's obviously, it's Cassidy, so it's weird, but it's honestly kind of cute, because you can see that he really is trying to sway her over. He really is trying to get together with her, and I do like seeing that. I think just something about it is kind of sweet, and I like the relationship overall, especially in this episode. They have some of the best scenes. As Tulip and Cassidy, I really do like it, and we know that Tulip, doesn't really seem to have a boyfriend. She works at this, she's a prostitute, and she's very much upset with the way the prostitutes have been, but it doesn't seem she has a boyfriend. I think she's only saying that because she doesn't want to really move forward with this relationship. So I thought that was definitely interesting. So Donnie lies in the dark in bed in his room, and by far this was Donnie's best episode. Donnie had so many great scenes here. Betsy reminds him that he has to go to work, that he's Odin's right-hand man, that there's no shame in losing one bar fight. She says the South will rise again, and really that they're going to prevail. Just one bar fight with Jesse should not determine how he feels, and Donnie remains very depressed, but Betsy lets the daylight into the room, threatens to screw the brains out of Russell and accounting if Donnie doesn't get back to work, and you can tell that really whatever Jesse did to Donnie has really affected him, and this is not the same Donnie that we met in episode 1. This is a much different Donnie, and I really like that. I like the way that they're really showing the impact that Jesse's powers have, and I know they're being quite slow about it, but I think that's really the way to be with this kind of situation, because we don't really know what's going on. We don't really know why Jesse has these powers or what they mean. I think this episode very well shows that these powers, we just don't really understand. I don't think we're going to understand it, so that's something I really enjoyed. So the device continues to ring. And we remember last week, that telephone was ringing. It was the hellphone, and we don't know why it's ringing. But, but Deblanc and Fiore are trying to remain as calm as possible to try to answer. They don't know what's really going on here, why it's ringing. They're trying to discuss what to say, how to say it when they answer. Fiore goes to answer because he's the sweet one, but he keeps messing up the middle part, which is the message. He doesn't really know what message they need to say because he doesn't know why this is ringing. He doesn't know why this is happening, and he's trying to figure out really how to stop this. And it's kind of a funny scene between the two, but it's also really intense. And again, I said before, just the way they use the just the sound of a phone just to heighten the tension of a scene is really well done. I think they're doing that really well in the show, and really shows the show knows how to do suspense very well. While the show at times is very silly, it's also very suspenseful, and this scene really combines both those elements very well. It's darkly humorous, but it's also darkly intense. You don't know what this means. You don't know why this whole phone is ringing. We don't really know what it's all about. But whatever's going on, it doesn't really seem to be working, and I don't really think Deblanc and Fiore know what they're really doing either. We know that they're angels, so why is the hell phone ringing? Really interesting stuff, and I like the way that that's going. So Emily goes by the church to update the ledge. She folds Jesse's clothes and uses the bathroom while she's there. And she didn't notice that Tulip was sitting in the other room, and Tulip finds Emily on the toilet, asks where Jesse is, and Emily tells Tulip that Jesse is still at the flavor station, and we know that Emily wants, nothing to do with Tulip. She is now on Tulip and Jesse's life. She's already told Jesse, don't even mention that woman's name. So clearly, again, we start to get, I think, more of an idea of what happened between Jesse and Tulip, but we do know that Emily wants absolutely nothing to do with Tulip, and she wants Tulip out of Jesse's life. So she's going to do whatever she can to make it seem like Jesse's gone, wants nothing to do with her. She's not going to make Tulip get in Jesse's life. So I do like seeing that. So Eugene makes an omelet for Sheriff Roots, and it's actually a really sweet scene, but it's also really sad. He's just trying to do a nice thing for his dad, and Eugene tries to be helpful, cut it up for his father, but he just loses his temper. He literally loses his shit, and he throws a plate of food, tells Eugene that maybe he should just, do like they said, and finish the goddamn job, and he literally says, look, maybe my son should just be dead. And as much as I like Sheriff Roof as a character, this episode really shows he's a horrible father. He really is a horrible father. He wants his son dead, and I get why. Probably he's berated at work with tons of, why is your son alive? Why is your son alive? I don't actually think he necessarily means what he said, but holy shit, he literally says, look, you should be dead, and really crazy. Eugene then cleans up the mess, and I feel so bad for this guy. All he did was try to kill himself and failed, and you can totally understand why he did try to kill himself, because of what he went through, because of probably everyone that said things to him like this every day, and he's really just trying to do a nice thing for his father. He's trying to be helpful, cut it up. He was gonna even give him an omelet, and it's like, chill, your son is just trying to do a nice thing for you. He was just trying to make a nice breakfast, and then you had to go and ruin a Sheriff Roots. I kind of like Sheriff Root, but after this episode, I don't really like Sheriff Root. I think it's a very well done scene. I like the way they're handling this, definitely, with Sheriff Root. I think it's definitely very well done. But overall, I really did enjoy this scene. I think, like I said, this was a very good episode for Eugene, really showing his intentions and really showing there's just a guy that's really trying to do nice things, and really no one can take him seriously. No one really wants him around. Everyone just kind of wants him gone, and it's very sad to see. So a man then fiddles with a meter, and we don't know what this is about. There's some sort of context there. We don't know what it is. Owen explains and apologizes for his past feelings to the mayor as Donnie watches from the corner, and Donnie is shocked to hear that Odin actually went to church. Now, we know why, because Jesse actually, we know that he made him go to church, and Owen agrees to meet with the people from Green Acres, and Donnie puts together that Jesse may have done to Odin the same thing they did to him, because Donnie knows that Jesse has done something to him, and he knows that Jesse has these powers, and he asks Odin what Jesse said, and Odin tells Donnie that Jesse said to serve God, which he plans on doing, and Odin continues making his plans and toasts to a new beginning, and it's pretty crazy the way that's going, because you can tell that Odin, Donnie clearly knows something has happened to Odin. He doesn't really know exactly what's going on, but he knows that Owen is obviously under Jesse's control. He knows that he's also under Jesse's control, and he doesn't really understand how this is all happening. He just knows that Jesse pretty much is just possessing anyone he feels like, and he doesn't really know how he can put a stop to it. So at the flavor station, man explains his issues with his mother-in-law. Jesse uses his power to tell him to be patient, and he actually is at the flavor station. Emily didn't lie, he is there. Tulip arrives, starts talking about, and I love the way this scene was done. Ruth Negga was just awesome here. I've loved Ruth Negga this entire season, but this scene in particular was just awesome. I loved her monologue here. Jesse uses power to tell him to be patient, basically, because Tulip's there. Tulip arrives, starts talking about how she has a problem with liking bad boys, and recalls a job involving a Komodo dragon and a Rastafarian who had a thing for Tulip, and Jesse shot the Komodo dragon in the head in retaliation for the guy's advances, and Tulip has a problem with Jesse denying who he is, and basically, the crowd gets, because he doesn't want to admit that this guy is him, and the crowd gets up to leave, but Jesse admits to doing much worse than that. He tells her that he's changed, and she can change too, and a waitress and basically, that she can turn things around, even though she doesn't think she can, and a waitress tells Jesse that someone outside wants to talk to him, but she's told that it can't come inside, and it's a really well done scene. I love the way that scene was done with Tulip, with him just saying, with her saying, look, you gotta embrace who you really are. We can tell that Jesse's clearly, trying to embrace his power, but he also knows he's not a bad guy anymore, and he's not a good guy, but he's not a bad guy either, and I think this very well shows that he's kind of just in the middle of those things, and Jesse then finds Eugene waiting outside. Eugene asks for Jesse's help with his dad because Sheriff Root's really becoming a problem, and he needs Jesse to maybe sway his dad over because it's not really working the way he wants it to, and it's a really nice scene. I like the way Eugene really is trying to, he really just wants to do a nice thing, and Jesse doesn't really see it that way. He really is having a problem with what's going on there, so you can totally understand that. And Jesse then pays a visit to the Loaches. He agrees to pray with Tracy first. Terry sees Eugene in Jesse's truck and attacks him with a bat, and Jesse literally just attacks him with a bat, and Jesse commands Terry to drop it, and she drops the bat, but she continues her attack until Jesse commands her to step away from the car, and crazy scene, let me just say. The way this was done, really insane. But again, the way that Jesse is under full control, it shows that I think these powers, he's using them for good and for evil. The good in the sense that he's doing this for Eugene, he's helping him out here. But the bad in the sense that he can't really control it, and he doesn't really, anything he does, it's a punishment. And Terry accused Eugene of being a murderer, but Jesse commands her to forgive him. She offers Eugene a hug, and, when you look at Eugene, he really does look like a monster, but kind of the way they're portraying this is kind of like the Elephant Man in many ways, because the Elephant Man, if you don't know that movie, it's about this, I've reviewed the movie on YouTube if you guys want to check it out, but it's about this man that had this horribly disfigured face, and everyone looked at him as a monster, but really deep down, he was a good guy. He was just a normal guy, he was a good man, and no one saw it that way, and that's kind of how they're seeing Eugene. Eugene, when you look at him, looks disfigured as shit, and he looks like a monster. He looks like something that shouldn't be alive, but really, he has so many good intentions. He's really just trying to do good things for people, and no one really seems to see it that way, and the way that Jesse was able to get her to forgive him, the way she offered Eugene a hug, is really, I think, just that boost of confidence and sympathy that Eugene needed. Nobody seems to have sympathy for this kid except for Jesse, probably because Jesse and Eugene are very alike, because they're very similar individuals. They both are very much, ridiculed and frowned upon, and they're not really taken in the way that they want to be, but Jesse, the difference between Jesse is that Jesse is making himself have all this confidence, while Eugene really is getting it from Jesse, and the way these two are kind of becoming a team, I really do enjoy, and I hope we get more scenes with these two in the future, because this scene was just fantastic. It was a really great scene for Eugene, really great scene for Jesse, and really, I think, just showcase these two individuals, and really their similarities very well. So Donnie then eats lunch with Betsy, but his mind is not there. He's not thinking about this at all. She accuses him of moping. He tries to explain Jesse's power to make people do things, because that's what he's so focused on. He's focused on Jesse. He tells her about putting the gun in his own mouth, and she comforts him, because she can tell that he's really hurting. She can tell that definitely something is going on. I mean, that's not at all normal what he's saying, and she really does want to help him. So in the car, Eugene asks Jesse about what happened with the Loaches, and Jesse says that Eugene's father doesn't have to worry anymore, that Root probably is under his control now, and that Root is going to accept him, which is pretty crazy, but that's what it seems like Jesse did. And the thing is, yes, it's very manufactured what Jesse did. It's all under his control. It's not actually how they feel, and I know many people are going to say that.
And I know that, yes, Rude isn't really this way. He doesn't really accept his son in the way that he wants him to, but under Jesse's control he does, and if you're under Jesse's control, really anything is up for, anything is up for grabs, pretty much. Anything can happen if you're under Jesse's control. Anything that Jesse tells you to do, you have to do, and it's just a really interesting concept. I love the way that's going, and basically, Tulip then sits in her car outside the Arrow drugstore. She puts a mask on, tucks a gun into her pants, walks toward the store. Now, we don't know why she's going to this store, but there's obviously a reason why she's going to this store. We just don't know what it is right now. But Fiore is finally about to answer the call when it stops ringing. It's a crazy scene because Fiore and Deblanc again, the entire episode, they've been trying to figure out how to stop this phone, what's going on, and the phone just stops ringing, and we don't know why, but just, it stops, and it's crazy. We don't know why this phone has stopped ringing. We don't know really what's going on, but clearly it was ringing before, and now it's not ringing, so I don't really know what that's supposed to mean. I think it's just really interesting. But basically, Tulip then finds Cassidy at the strip club, gives him some pills, and she tells him that they're in love now, and literally says that, he says, look, do you want to be together? Do you want me to be your boyfriend? She literally says they're in love now. They have sex in her car, and it's really weird the way that scene was done. But again, it's Preacher, so weird is good for this show, and I really like the way that scene was done. But then we get to the ending of this episode, which is pretty much everything I think we've been waiting for with this show. Finally things are coming together. We see a couple comes to Jesse about parenting and screen time. He commands them to use their best judgment, and Ruth then brings Fiore and Deblanc to see Jesse. Finally, these three have met. We've known that Fiore and Deblanc want to steal Jesse's power, but we realize there's a reason why they want to steal said power. Basically, they try to explain what they're here for, and Jesse's very confused. He doesn't understand this, and they tell him that they're from heaven, that he's been using a power that shouldn't be used, and that they need it back, and they show him the coffee tin where it lives, and, he says, look, there's no way that, power can be in a coffee tin, but obviously it is, and Jesse thinks that it's God they're after, but they tell him that it's not God inside of him. Definitely that's not what's there. It's definitely whatever, the thing that's inside him is not God. It's clearly a demon or something bad, and it's not God what's inside of him. And I think they've done a good job in the show of not having this be just a normal creature. He's not a vampire, he's not anything like that. This is something that I haven't really seen before, and I really do like that. The question is, what really is inside of Jesse, because now we know it's not God, it's not really a good thing that's inside of him, and that's why they want to take it, because obviously whatever is in him, they're after, and they want to subdue it, because it's not doing any favors, and really, he's going to become this evil God, and he doesn't really understand that. So Odin then meets with Miles and the Green Acres people. The Green Acres people all sit down, they enjoy a brandy, and they're all pretty much talking away. Odin then pulls out a gun, he shoots them all. Now, we don't know why he does this, but he literally just shoots all of them, and that is the way the episode ends. Really crazy stuff overall. Let's just get into this episode, because really this was really big. So really a huge episode, I think. Really, there were some huge things that went down here. I mean, between everything going on with Eugene, and then the flashback in the beginning of the episode, there really was a lot going on. And I think this episode, like I said, really does show that the power within Jesse is not good, and that whatever's going on, I think really is connected to the Saint of Killers. Now, let me just say, I don't think that we're going to meet the Saint of Killers probably till episode 10. I don't see us meeting him to the finale. I just feel like that's what they're going to do. They're going to do a Walking Dead. They're going to tease him, and then we're going to see him in the finale. Now, do I think he's going to get more screen time than Negan got in the finale of The Walking Dead? Oh, yeah, I think he's probably going to be one of the biggest parts of the finale, but eventually we're going to be led to him. I think the only reason he's in the main cast right now is because he's just as big as a part of the story. Now, I could be wrong, and maybe we'll meet him next week. I don't really know, but that's what I'm thinking they're going to do. As far as Fiore and Deblanc, what is with the phone? Why did it just randomly stop ringing? That doesn't just happen. Why? There has to be a reason why the phone stopped ringing. Why was the phone ringing in the first place? Why, if they're angels, why did they get a call from the hellphone? And who was on the other side of that line? That's really what I'm wondering. Was it the devil? Was it possibly the Saint of Killers? Is he possibly dead, and maybe he's going after Jesse? I'm not really sure. Is it, to warn Jesse that he might be going to hell? I don't really know. I mean, we know that Jesse very much, he wants God. He wants God. He wants everyone to have God, and I think we've pretty much seen that by now. As far as Eugene goes, the way that Jesse was able to control Root into, accepting his son is really sweet. It does show that Jesse does have good intentions. It shows that Jesse does not mean to be the way he is, even though people see him as a monster. He really is a good guy. He's not really a bad guy. I've never really seen Jesse as a bad guy. I haven't seen him as a good guy, but not a bad guy. He's just a very persistent guy. This is a guy that really, he's not, he's a very persistent guy. He's a very desperate guy, and he'll do whatever he can to sway people over to the church because he does want this church to work out in the best way possible. And, so that's really interesting. I'm hoping that things go well with Eugene. My question is there at any point where what Jesse does wears off? Because it seems like with Donnie it has weared off. Donnie is very aware of what Jesse did, but it doesn't seem as if he's under his control anymore. It seems that Odin is, and that, Root is, but it doesn't seem that, Donnie is. So what is the true extent of Jesse's power? I don't know. I feel like it wears off after a little bit. That's very interesting. I think Fiore and Deblanc know a lot more about his power than Jesse does, and I think they're really going to show him what's really going on there, and that's going to be very interesting. Tulip and Cassidy, I mean, this is probably one of the most unexpected directions I think we would have gone with this. I never saw this as like a relationship. I saw them more as interacting. But no, they're going in a full-fledged relationship. It seems that, she actually really does want to be with Cassidy, and I'm hoping for their sake things go well. I do kind of like this couple. I think they're kind of cute together, and something kind of sweet about these two. The fact that they're both very corrupted individuals, and the fact that they both have Ron Jesse in many ways, I think just shows that really they are meant to be together, and there's just something good about these two. And I think it also is kind of just like Eugene's situation. These are two people that are kind of frowned upon by society, but they don't really care what society says. They think they should be together, so they're gonna be together, and I do like that. I think that's very well done. Odin killing all those people, I don't really know what that's all about with him killing all those people from Green Acres. What's really going on there? I mean, Odin clearly thinks that his duty is to serve God, but that's because Jesse told him to serve God, and I think Odin knows that he's under Jesse's control, but he also is, still under Jesse's control. So I think that's really interesting as well, the way that that's going. Why did he kill all those Green Acres people? We don't really know. And then I guess the only other thing is, let's just talk about the Saint of Killers, flashback for a second, because there really is a lot going on with that. What the Saint of Killers do? Why was his family killed? Why is who is he really? Is the Saint of Killers like Jesse? Are they alike? Is that the only way? Because I'm thinking, this is just me. I know, again, like I said, I don't really know what's going on. This guy might not even be the Saint of Killers. I'm just thinking he is because I know that Grant McTavish is in the show and we have yet to see him. What I'm thinking is that the only way that he had Jesse's power. He had Jesse's power. He was the one calling from that hellphone. He's in hell right now. He's going to descend back into, Earth somehow. He's going to somehow be alive. I don't know how, but he's going to try to take Jesse's power because that is what wronged him and his family, and he's going to go after Jesse for that reason. That's what I'm thinking he's doing, that he's doing this basically to end this power once and for all, because it seems like people have had Jesse's power from generation to generation, and that he is definitely not the first preacher to have said power. Saint of Killers had it. I think many other people have had it, and I think he's going to be the one to stop this from happening, because while Jesse is understanding his power, I don't think he'll ever truly understand what's going on unless someone comes in and tells him, hey, this is what's going on, this is how you stop it. I think that's really what's going to happen with that. That's going to be really interesting to see what happens there. But overall, guys, really a fantastic episode. This is what Preachers needs to be every single week. Not that I haven't loved the show, but I will say the past 2 episodes have not been the best. I really like last week's episode. 3 is still the weakest, but I love this episode. Even though there wasn't a lot of action, this was a very dialogue heavy episode. Everything going on was so interesting. Everyone really had a big moment. Even Emily had some really big moments here. Emily's the one character that's kind of hard to read. I can't really tell if she's on Jesse's side, not on Jesse's side. She's kind of hard to read. That's really the only thing I'd say about her, is that she's just a character that's kind of hard to read right now. I don't really know where they're going with her. That's going to be really interesting. But overall, guys, let me know what you guys thought of this episode. Do you agree what I think about the Saint of Killers? Was the guy we met the Saint of Killers? I'm assuming he was. But I will see you guys in my next video, which may be for the series premiere of Roadies. I don't really know. I've been watching it so far. Not really a big fan of it so far, guys. I don't really know if I'm going to watch that show. But if it's not for that, it will be for Bloodline, because I'm finishing Bloodline this week. That's happening. I am finishing this season of Bloodline because I want to be able to go on to Orange New Black because I need to find out what happens in episode 12. Everyone's been talking about it, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.